What if I told you the American dream isn't just fading, it's actively collapsing in entire states, that millions of ordinary Americans, caught in an unseen crisis, are abandoning their homes, their livelihoods, even their memories, in a desperate flight for survival? This isn't a theory, it's happening right now. For years, we've been fed a narrative of national resilience. But beneath the surface, a silent catastrophe has been unfolding, state by state, city by city. While the world was busy watching geopolitical tensions and distant conflicts, an internal exodus, a desperate migration, quietly began to accelerate across the heartland and the coasts of America. This isn't just about economic downturns. It's about the very fabric of communities tearing apart. We're talking about states, once vibrant, now bleeding residents, at an alarming, unprecedented rate. The data, hidden in plain sight, screams a warning. Panic is spreading fast. Tonight, we expose the shocking truth. We'll unveil the top 10 U.S. states people are running away from in 2025. You'll see the specific brutal statistics, you'll hear the untold stories, and you'll understand why the very notion of home is turning into a nightmare for millions. But here's the twist. The reasons for this mass flight are more complex, more insidious, and far more terrifying than you could possibly imagine. And by the end of this broadcast, you'll be asking yourself, is my state next? While global headlines fixated on proxy wars and stock market fluctuations, a different kind of war was being waged on American soil. An economic, social, and existential conflict. This isn't just about a few job losses or a bad year. This is about systemic failures, reaching a critical mass, pushing once stable communities past their breaking point. In the last 3 years alone, we've seen shifts in internal migration that dwarf anything since the Dust Bowl. But without the immediate, visible disaster, the numbers are stark, a staggering 3.5 million Americans. Relocated across state lines last year alone, many of them fleeing conditions that have become unbearable. This quiet exodus isn't just a symptom of economic malaise. It's a terrifying indicator of a nation fractured, where basic services crumble, crime spirals, and the very cost of existence becomes unsustainable. Why is this happening? And why isn't it dominating every news cycle? Because the truth is inconvenient. Because admitting the scale of this internal displacement would force an uncomfortable conversation about failing governance, neglected infrastructure, and the dark underbelly of unchecked societal decay. We've become accustomed to narratives of growth, but the reality is, key pillars of the American economy and social contract are quietly collapsing. From the industrial heartland to the sunny coasts, from energy-rich regions to states famed for natural beauty, the forces driving this mass exodus are varied, but the outcome is chillingly consistent. Empty houses, shuttered businesses, and a future that looks increasingly bleak for those left behind. This isn't just a trend, it's a warning shot across the bow of the entire nation. Deep dive, the top 10 states. People are running away from 1. Illinois, the unbearable weight of debt. Illinois, once a powerhouse of industry, a crossroads of America, now bleeding residents faster than almost any other state. In 2023 alone, the state saw a net loss of over 40,000 residents, a staggering figure that continues to accelerate into 2025. What's the core crisis? It's a triple threat: astronomical property taxes, a crushing pension debt, and a soaring crime rate, particularly in its largest metropolitan areas. The state's unfunded pension liability hovers around an unimaginable 140 billion rente, a black hole sucking the life out of public services and forcing local governments to hike taxes year after year. For the average homeowner in Chicago or its suburbs, the property tax bill can feel like a second mortgage, making the dream of homeownership an outright nightmare. Businesses facing dwindling consumer bases and an unpredictable economic climate are also fleeing, taking jobs with them. But here's the twist. Illinois was once the poster child for Midwestern resilience. Now, its once bustling main streets are adorned with "for rent" signs, and entire neighborhoods are emptying out. The conflict is palpable. Desperate residents trapped by underwater mortgages, unable to sell their homes because no one wants to buy into this fiscal sinkhole. They're fighting back, protesting against tax hikes, but the state's financial quagmire seems to deepen with every passing year. What happens when a state becomes too expensive to live in, too dangerous to thrive in, and too indebted to save itself? And if you think Illinois' fiscal crisis is unique, wait until you see the hidden dangers lurking in our next state. T2, New Mexico, the vanishing frontier. Dream. From the bustling Midwest to the quiet, sun-baked landscapes of the Southwest, New Mexico, the land of enchantment, has become the land of exodus. Despite its natural beauty, this state faces a profound crisis of economic stagnation and pervasive crime that is driving its population away. For years, New Mexico has struggled with one of the highest poverty rates in the nation, currently over 18%, locking generations into a cycle of despair. But the real shocker? Its crime rates. The state consistently ranks among the worst for violent crime, with Albuquerque, its largest city, battling an epidemic of homicides and property crime. Local law enforcement is overwhelmed, struggling with underfunding and recruitment issues, leaving citizens feeling increasingly vulnerable. The twist here is the stark contrast between the romanticized image of the Old West and the grim reality. Businesses hesitate to invest in an environment plagued by insecurity, leading to a severe lack of high-paying jobs, especially for its younger, educated population. This creates a vicious cycle. As the talented leave for better opportunities, the tax base shrinks, further crippling the state's ability to address its core problems. The conflict? Desperate families facing the impossible choice between staying in a place they love, but where their children have no future, or uprooting their lives entirely. It sounds impossible for an entire state to simply hollow out, but New Mexico is a stark reminder that if economic hope and basic safety vanish, so too will its people. But if you thought the desert was unforgiving, wait until you see the devastating impact of Mother Nature. Combined with systemic failure in Louisiana, it's far worse. Louisiana, drowning in disasters and decay. Louisiana, a state renowned for its vibrant culture, its unique history, its rich culinary traditions. But for years, it has been battling a relentless, multi-front war against both natural disasters and systemic decay, driving a significant portion of its population to seek safer, more stable ground. The numbers are chilling. Coastal erosion is literally causing the land to disappear, swallowing up a football field of land every 100 minutes. This, combined with the increasing frequency and intensity of hurricanes, think Katrina, Laura, Ida, has made large swaths of the state virtually uninsurable and uninhabitable. The economic toll of rebuilding year after year is unsustainable, leaving communities perpetually in ruins and residents trapped in a cycle of displacement. But here's the twist. It's not just Mother Nature. Louisiana also grapples with one of the highest violent crime rates in the U.S., particularly in cities like New Orleans, and pervasive economic struggles. Its infrastructure is crumbling, its education system lags, and its once dominant oil and gas industry is facing an uncertain future, leaving thousands jobless. The hidden data reveals a silent exodus as families make the heart-wrenching decision to leave behind generations of history for the promise of stability elsewhere. The conflict is stark between those who refuse to abandon their heritage and those who simply cannot afford another season of uncertainty. What happens when the land itself betrays its people and the state lacks the resources to protect them? And if you think geographical vulnerability is the ultimate threat, prepare for the shocking reality of urban collapse driven by the cost of living in our next state, California. Were California, the Golden State's tarnished dream? California, the land of endless sunshine, innovation, and opportunity. Or so the myth goes. The reality, for millions, has become a relentless struggle for survival, pushing them out of the very state they once flocked to. California experienced a net loss of over 5,000 residents. Between 2020 and 2023, a trend accelerating dramatically into 2025, the crisis, an utterly unsustainable cost of living, driven by housing prices that have skyrocketed far beyond the reach of the middle class. The median home price in many major metropolitan areas is well over $800,000. While rental costs devour over 50% of the average income. This economic squeeze forces families to choose between homelessness or fleeing the state entirely. But here's the twist, it's not just the cost. California also battles recurring natural disasters, mega droughts leading to water scarcity, devastating wildfires that incinerate entire communities, and an unstable power grid prone to blackouts. Beyond that, the state grapples with a spiraling homelessness crisis, rampant property crime in major cities, and policies that some argue are stifling business growth, causing a significant exodus of corporations. The conflict is raw between the state's progressive ideals and the harsh economic realities faced by its working class. The dream of California, once accessible to all, has become a luxury only for the ultra-rich, forcing everyone else to reevaluate their entire lives. Is it truly golden if its own citizens can no longer afford to live there? And if California's housing crisis is a shock, wait until you see how its East Coast counterpart, New York, is facing an equally brutal reckoning. New York, the Empire State's crumbling crown. New York, the city that never sleeps, the state of unparalleled ambition and financial might. Yet, beneath the glittering facade, the Empire State is quietly hemorrhaging its population, particularly its middle and working classes. In 2023, New York lost a staggering 216,000 residents, the highest net loss of any state. The core crisis, an incredibly high tax burden, income tax, property tax, sales tax, all combined to make the cost of living in New York City and its surrounding areas almost prohibitive. A family earning six figures can still struggle to afford a decent life, let alone save for the future. Businesses, too, are burdened by these costs, leading to a slow but steady outflow of corporations and the jobs they provide. But here's the twist. It's not just the taxes. New York City, once seen as a bastion of safety, has seen a disturbing surge in certain crime categories, impacting the quality of life and making residents feel less secure. The mass adoption of remote work during the pandemic revealed that millions could escape the crushing rents and crowded commutes, and many never looked back. This created a glut of empty office space and a challenging real estate market for those trying to sell. The conflict is palpable between the historical pull of New York's cultural and economic gravity and the harsh economic realities that are pushing its citizens to the breaking point. How long can a state thrive when its own people are forced to abandon it for financial reprieve? And if you thought the East Coast was safe, turn your eyes to the Pacific Northwest, where an unexpected crisis is brewing in Oregon. 6. Oregon, the paradox of progress and decay. Oregon, a state celebrated for its progressive values, stunning natural beauty, and vibrant urban centers like Portland. Yet, a disturbing and rapid decline in livability is causing an unprecedented exodus of its citizens. The crisis? A shocking confluence of rampant homelessness, a devastating drug crisis, and a dramatic surge in certain types of property crime that have left many communities feeling unsafe and neglected. Portland, once a beacon of quirky charm, has seen its downtown core transformed by sprawling tent encampments and open drug use, creating a humanitarian crisis and a severe impediment to business and tourism. But here's the twist. The very policies intended to be progressive are, by many accounts, exacerbating the problems. Decriminalization of hard drugs, while aiming for harm reduction, has led to visible societal decay without adequate treatment infrastructure. The state's struggles to address mental health and addiction have created a vacuum that impacts every facet of daily life. The result? Families are leaving for states with stricter laws, safer streets, and a greater sense of order. The conflict is profound between a deeply held ideology and the grim reality on the ground, leaving residents feeling betrayed and unheard. What happens when a state's ideals clash so violently with its everyday reality that its own people flee? Next, we head back east to a state where the cost of living rivals even New York, but with far fewer opportunities: Maryland. For Maryland, the squeeze on the Mid-Atlantic. Maryland, nestled strategically between the economic powerhouses of the Northeast and the political heart of Washington, D.C. It should be thriving, but this small, densely populated state is quietly losing residents at an alarming rate. Caught in a vice of high living costs, burdensome taxes, and limited economic mobility, Maryland consistently ranks among the states with the highest tax burden, including income, property, and sales taxes, forcing many to question the value they receive for their contributions. Add to that housing prices that continue to climb, especially in the D.C. suburbs, and the dream of middle-class stability becomes increasingly elusive. But here's the twist. Unlike its wealthier neighbors, Maryland struggles with a significant disparity in economic opportunity. While areas close to D.C. might offer high-paying federal jobs, much of the state, particularly its more industrial or rural regions, faces stagnant wages and dwindling prospects. Furthermore, cities like Baltimore continue to grapple with persistent violent crime, despite efforts to revitalize. The conflict is stark between those tied to the region by family or career and those who can no longer justify the financial strain, often finding better value and quality of life in neighboring states. What happens when a state, caught in the shadow of prosperity, loses its own residents to the very pressures it cannot alleviate? Our next state, Mississippi, offers a different but equally grim picture of stagnation. While Mississippi, the endless cycle of decline. Mississippi, the Magnolia State, a place of deep history and cultural richness, but also a state that has been battling persistent poverty and limited opportunity for decades. And in 2025, That struggle is manifesting in an accelerating population exodus, particularly among its younger, educated workforce. Mississippi consistently ranks as the poorest state in the nation, with a median household income significantly below the national average. This economic reality translates directly into poor infrastructure, underfunded public services, and a severe lack of quality jobs that could lift its citizens out of intergenerational poverty. But here's the twist: the brain drain is reaching critical levels. Young people, after graduating from college, find little incentive to stay, knowing that opportunities for career growth and a higher quality of life exist elsewhere. This perpetual outflow of talent further cripples the state's ability to innovate, attract new industries, or build a robust tax base. The conflict is heartbreaking. Between the profound sense of place and community that defines Mississippi and the cold, hard economic calculus that forces its brightest to leave. What happens when an entire generation sees no future in their home state? And who will be left to fight for its future? This cycle of decline is echoed in a different form in our next state, West Virginia. West Virginia, the dying heart of Appalachia. West Virginia, almost heaven, a state of breathtaking mountain vistas and a proud, resilient people. But beneath that rugged beauty lies a profound crisis that is actively emptying its towns and forcing its population into a desperate flight for survival. For decades, the state's economy has been inextricably linked to the coal industry. And as that industry rapidly declines, so too do the fortunes of its communities. Thousands of high-paying jobs have vanished, replaced by an economic void. The result? One of the fastest rates of population decline in the nation, particularly among working-age individuals. But here's the twist. Compounding this economic collapse is the devastating opioid crisis, which has ravaged families and communities across the state, claiming lives and further straining an already fragile healthcare system. The combination of limited economic opportunity and a widespread public health emergency creates a desperate environment where hope becomes a luxury few can afford. The conflict is stark between the deep cultural ties that bind West Virginians to their land and the overwhelming reality that staying means a life of diminishing prospects. What happens when a state's fundamental economic engine grinds to a halt, leaving behind a population struggling to cope with the aftermath? Our final state on this chilling list, Missouri, reveals a deeper, insidious urban decay that is driving its residents to despair. Missouri, the rusting crossroads of America. Missouri, the show-me state, geographically at the heart of the nation, yet it's now showing us a chilling example of rapid urban decay and escalating crime rates driving its citizens away. While often overlooked in national headlines, cities like St. Louis are battling a violent crime epidemic that places them among the most dangerous in the country. This isn't just a statistic, it's a daily terror for residents, eroding the quality of life and making basic activities, like going to the store, a risk. Coupled with this, significant parts of its major urban centers are experiencing the painful effects of deindustrialization and economic disinvestment, leaving behind vast stretches of abandoned buildings and desolate neighborhoods. But here's the twist: it's not just the crime. Missouri also grapples with a persistent brain drain, as younger, educated individuals leave for states with more dynamic economies and safer environments. The conflict is visceral between the state's historical significance and its current struggles to retain its population and revitalize its core cities. For those who remain, the fight for better schools, safer streets, and economic opportunity is a constant uphill battle. What happens when the heart of America starts to bleed out and its vital arteries become too dangerous to navigate? The ripple effects of this exodus are already being felt, and they are only just beginning. This isn't just a list of 10 failing states. This is a chilling early warning system for the entire nation. The mass exodus from these states signifies more than just population shifts. It represents a profound crisis of confidence in the ability of government to provide basic security, economic opportunity, and a decent quality of life. The ripple effects are immense. No economic collapse. As populations flee, so does the tax base, leading to further cuts in essential services, creating a death spiral for the communities left behind. Property values plummet, businesses fail, and entire regions become economic deserts. Social fragmentation. The loss of community cohesion, the fracturing of neighborhoods, and the concentration of poverty and crime in the abandoned areas create deep-seated social problems that will haunt generations. National instability. A nation divided, with states thriving while others collapse, creates unprecedented internal pressures. Will these ghost states become permanent scars on the American landscape? Will the desperation drive new political and social conflicts? This isn't just the beginning. This is an accelerating trend. Could this trigger a domino effect, leading to similar crises in your state? Is your property value safe? Is your community immune to the forces that are tearing these states apart? The uncomfortable truth is, if the underlying issues of unsustainable debt, rampant crime, environmental neglect, and economic stagnation are not addressed at a national level, the quiet exodus of 2025 could become the American catastrophe of 2030. We have witnessed the alarming truth tonight. The American dream is becoming a waking nightmare for millions, forcing them into a desperate search for safety and stability. These aren't just statistics. These are families uprooting their lives, leaving behind everything they know. The silence around this mass exodus is deafening, but the desperation of those fleeing these states speaks volumes. The question is no longer if things are changing, but how fast the decline will spread. Do you believe America can recover from this internal hemorrhage? Or is the decline of these once great states inevitable? Are these isolated incidents or symptoms of a much larger systemic rot? Let us know in the comments below. Your answer might surprise even you. The truth is out there, but it's often buried under layers of political rhetoric and media distractions. Don't let yourself be kept in the dark. Subscribe to our channel now and hit that notification bell, because next week we'll dive even deeper, exposing another hidden crisis that could impact you directly. The future is uncertain, but one thing is clear: you need to be informed. Stay vigilant